Hi everyone, Dominic here and welcome to another video from Mesolight Visual. This video is session 2 of our ArchiCAD training program that we've started lately. So I would recommend you to watch session 1 where we're looking at getting comfortable in ArchiCAD. So check the link on the top right corner. I also put the link on the description. I recommend you to watch that video before continue with this one because it's a stepping stone. It's an introduction. It has all the introduction part of this course, so I suggest you watch that before you continue with this one. So today we'll be looking at core modeling tools and ArchiCAD design workflow. The session is themed around building the virtual model. I want you to develop core modeling skills and understanding of ArchiCAD design logic. So the topics that we'll be covering will be wall types. We'll be looking at the composites and its priorities. We'll look at openings, doors, and windows. Basically the types, placement, and its settings. We'll look at 3D tools such as slabs, roof, beams, columns, and their basic and complex profile features. Another interesting command or tool is the solid element operations. We'll focus more onto the basics and developing and understanding how to use this for advanced modeling. Another is layers, pens, line types, and graphic overrides. Last but not least, using the tracker and coordinates for precision tasks in ArchiCAD. So at the end of the video, we'll also look at an exercise where we'll be carrying out a modeling of a 2-room pavilion with floor and roof, applying accurate materials and priorities. Buckle up and let's get started. Before we start, I would like to ask you to subscribe because that's the only way you could support this channel. Hit subscribe button and also click on the notification bell to be notified for session 3 of this ArchiCAD training program. Let's begin focusing on the critical tools, the wall tool. So I'm going to activate the tool, and then on the info box you will get an instant feedback of the parameters of this tool, and starting with the layer, and we have the geometry method that determines the placement of the tool or of the wall, and then the reference line location, which is very critical for your room dimensions as well, and the structure, either basic, composite or profiled, and then we have the floor plan section where the 2D or graphic representation of this element will be determined. So, and then we have the linked stories to key in the bottom part of the wall and then the top part of the wall elements. So we have this thickness and other parameters. So the most important thing, I want us to draw just a simple wall. So I'm gonna go here on the geometry method and click on this arrow, click and hold the arrow. You would get a different or variance of how to place this wall. The first one is point-to-point placement. You just specify 2 points in your ArchiCAD canvas, then you place your wall. Like for example, 1 point, then the second point to place your wall. The third, under this command, we have the chained method or polygon method. So if you to place the wall, you have to specify multiple points to place your wall like that. And then the third one is the box or rectangular method, where you specify 2 points. The first point, then diagonally specify the second point like that. And as you're doing this operation, you would see we have this tracker, where the dimension tracker, where you can key in the dimensions of what you want to achieve. In this case, you could say 4,000 millimeters, and to access the vertical dimension, you have to click on the arrow, downward arrow in your keyboard, then key in the value again. With the latest version of ArchiCAD, you would get this the distance guide that determines also, it's a very critical game changer in terms of how your spaces look like. So for example, if I had to select this wall, it will indicate the room dimensions of this space. I can either modify it to whatever distance I want, and then it will move the element accordingly. And I can select this one or this two and add a selection by holding shift. Let's click on this one and then go to the modifying commands at the top menu, then intersect, just like that. Okay, so we've explored different methods, and the last method is the rotated rectangle. So basically you'll have to specify, it's more like just this box, but then this one is different because you have to specify the angle before you can complete your box. For example, I'll have to enter the first point, then now enter rotation vector of this rectangle. So in this case, I'm gonna just follow this guideline of 45 degrees, then I can click, then drag accordingly, like so, to draw. I can even key in the value of the distance like that and hit enter to complete your placement. Okay, so and then we have the second feature, or the second tool for the geometry method, where you can use or it's called a curved method. For example, the first one in the list there is you have to specify the center point first, right? So for example, specify the center point on your screen, then you draw a way to enter the radius or the distance. In this case, it's going to be let's make 2 meters, like that. If you hit enter, and then you can now draw up your circle based on the center you've specified, and then the distance also you've keyed in. Then you can complete your circle. The third one, the second one, it's you have to specify the first point, the center, then the distance. Let's key in 5 meters. Then I can specify another tangent of 4.5, like that. Then I can close up the circle. That completes my wall. And then the fourth one, or the third one, sorry, it's also specifying the center and 2 tangent as well. Then it will place your walls. I'm not sure the situation where, or the ideal situation for this tool, but I see it as strange to be because you need to specify some kind of dimensions for your distances when you're inputting this or placing this wall. Okay. All right, to continue with the other parameters of the wall, let's look at the reference line location. It's very important to understand this. It determines the direction of placement of your wall. So for example, if I choose inside face, that means the reference line is going to be on the inside. So now I'm going to draw it from, this is what, counterclockwise, right? I'm gonna go this direction like so, and then close. So if I'm doing it on the outside, I have to do it clockwise, like going this direction from the left to right. Okay, so that is inside, this is outside. You could see now this cladding scheme has been placed differently based on the 2 methods. This is the inside face, this is the outside face. Okay, and then we have this feature where we can turn the reference line location location, sorry, like that. We can decide if we want that way, right? So the other parameter is the, let me select all this, is the structure. So the structure also determines what the level of detail of your wall. So you can start from the basic, you just have a basic structure, then you can choose the material. For example, this will be brick. You get this type of graphics. So if I were to change this to a composite like it is, let's find brick plastered on both sides. This is a composite. So we have the thickness parameters as well. For example, we can change in the thickness to 200 or 300 depending on your standards. So for the composite, you can't change the thickness because it depends on the layer, the skin of the composite dimensions within your composite. I don't want to overwhelm you with more information. Like for example, you can go to edit this profile. This is the thicknesses I'm talking about. So the total thickness of this wall or of this composite is 125 millimeters. So you can't modify it. It will give it as a grayed out area here, unlike when it's just basic, where you can manually adjust the thickness of your walls. Okay, so another important part is the linked story, because every element in ArchiCAD has to be linked with a level. That is a standard. It's best practices. So you have to have, for the wall, you can link the bottom of it and then the top of it. Other objects you will have to, other elements will have to, they depend on one level. You can just link the base offset. So in this case, you can key into the ground and then to the next or to the top level. So if it's a multiple story, you want this wall to go all the way to the 5th floor, you can run it all the way. It depends on your design. So it's very, very important to understand this. And then the offset, the bottom offset dimensions also, that's very important. So if it's on ground now, it will be keyed at 0 because the height the offset height is dependent on the level, that level. So if this were to be positioned to the story 1, for example, which is up, so we'll get this information saying, as a result of this operation, elements are going to be hidden or are going to be moved to a higher level, so they can't be visible on this layer. We say continue, they will disappear, and then if you go to the upper story or story 1, you will have your elements here. So if you select one of the walls, you see it's linked at 0 because this level is at 3 meters high. So if we check, if we go to story settings, for example, you will see story 1 is at 3 meters high. So this wall is at 3 meters high, but it says the base offset is 0 from this level. I hope you understand the point here that I'm trying to get across. So if you go to 3D, you'd see the level of this is at a different height, even though it says the base offset is 0. It's because of that level of story 2. Okay. So another thing is the priority connection, because there's a hierarchy that controls the elements, how they interact each other within your model. So for example, let's pick parameters of this wall. I'll pick parameters of this by Alt and hold, or you can just go to this pick parameter tool, and then I'll click on this wall, and I can draw the wall based on that parameters of that wall. So I can just draw it to divide, right click and hit OK to divide this space like that. You could see now the interaction between these two walls, right? This one has plaster on both sides and a core structure, and this one is just a basic. Let's change this to just a basic, and material to be brick as well. Okay, you can see, maybe put it here. You could see now the interaction here is not ideal. You'll want to have this the two bricks to clean up nicely. I like the idea of the plaster to stop here, but then this depends on the material. The material has to be the same. So if we select this one and edit to access, you'd see we've used the brick structural for this one, so it has to be the same. So if I had to change this to a brick structural, the connection will be 100% perfect, like that. Even if I change this to a composite wall, then let's go for that one. So the connection will be cleanly managed automatically because of what? The building materials interactive priority. So if you select here and then select the element and then go to attributes, under options, let's go for element attributes, then building materials. We have by default, ArchiCAD will highlight the materials that are for the elements that has been selected within your file. In this case, we have wall, the plaster, which is gypsum, and then we have the brick structural. So these two materials that have been highlighted are of a different intersection priority strength. So if you look at your brick, if you select the brick structural, it is at 720 stronger than your gypsum, which is at 210 weaker. So this is what determines how the elements interact and clean up the joints within your project model. It's a very intuitive feature to have all this to be automatically managed or computer managed by your program. Okay. We're moving on to the second tool, which is the Slab Tool. I'll activate the Slab Tool, and what you need to understand is that every element or every tool in ArchiCAD has the geometry method. Some has an extra or additional method, which is construction method as well. So this is basically for placement within your file. So for the slab we have three. The first one is specifying different multiple points like that to place your slab, or you can have 3 meter, enter, then you go down 3000 like that, then you can reference with let's reference with that point, click, then complete the placement of your slab like that. Okay, the second method is the rectangle, where you specify 2 points, first point and then the second point diagonally. Then you can also key in your measurements, for example. Then downward arrow to access, downward arrow to access the bottom of vertical dimension, like so. All right, third one is the rotated rectangle. Just like the walls, you have to specify the rotation vector 45 degrees. Then you can now complete the rectangle slab by entering a value or just clicking. So in this case, it's going to be 5 meters like that. Perfect. So and then we focus on other elements such as let's say other parameters like reference, location line is also key in on your slab. For example, the slab has 4. The first 2 are almost the same because it's the bottom and then the top of your element. Then these 2 are basically for the composite structure. If you're always under composite structure, so if I change this to basic, you will get 2 reference line location. If I change this to composite, you will get 4 and have extra 2, which is referencing the core material in your slab. So for example, let's switch on this in 3D, and I'm gonna hit O in the keyboard to rotate like so. So for example, this is the composite. Let's change this to something different, maybe with the tile. This is what we have. So if I select this, you'd see the reference line. This is the blue line that represents the reference of your slab. So in this case, it's been referenced to the top of the core material. So this one will be at the bottom. See how it changes the location, because this determines the offset base of your element as well. So if I had to turn this to a basic structure, and the material will be this. If you change this to the top, it will also adhere to your elements like that. So I'll have to give you the ideal situation. For example, if your level, so let's key in this to ground, right? And then the level should be what? 0, because maybe your floor finish it's at 240, so that means you can't have it at the bottom. So if it's like this, that means this is above floor finish. So the top of your floor is going to be above floor finish. It's going to be a step. I think the ideal situation will be reference it and or the top like that. It depends either way. Anyway, with your standards and your design. Okay. So move on to another tool, which is the roof. Let's go to the floor plan. I'm gonna click there. If I activate the roof, for example, you will have also the geometry method. In this case, we are having an extra, which is the construction method. The geometry method is basically it's the roof type. So we have single plane, and then we have multi-plane roof. The single plane, I think you understand, it's just placing one plane. Multiple plane will be maybe creating your hipped roof kind of a design. And let's start with the multi-plane and the construction method, either using multiple points or rectangular and then rotated rectangle. Okay, so I'm going to use the rectangle to place a roof to the structure. So I'm gonna specify the first point of the roof pivot line. So you need to start by representing the pivot line, right? So and then the next point of the pivot line will be the width of the structure of the building. And then I need to click upward. I need to click upward to indicate the pitch of the roof like that. And then from there, I will have to enter the first point of a rectangular roof. So the first point will be this. Then I will complete the rectangle by specifying the second point to here like that. So it says, as a result of the last operative elements have been created, this is going to be hidden to this level because it's been linked, or the offset height is at 3 meters. So if you come here under the roof pivot and height and pitch, you would see the offset height of this is 3 meters, and then it's linked with the ground floor. Okay, we need to link it to the upper floor because the roof is more like in the next level. So I'm gonna hit continue either way, and then go to the 3D. This is the roof. I'm gonna select it and set the angle to, or the pitch to maybe 7, something like this, and then I'll change the home story or the link to first story, then set it to 0 so that it can be nicely positioned like so. Okay, so introducing you to the solid element operation tool to clean up your elements. For example, we will have, in this type of roof, we'll have the gable. You have the gable of your wall. So I'm gonna select this wall and then stretch them using this stretch height in your pet palette. So I'm gonna stretch the height all the way beyond our roof like that. So to clean up this, you'll have to go to options, design, then let's find for solid element operation element. So I'm gonna select all the walls by holding shift to add the selection, and I'm going to add the walls as a target because we want to target this and cut the top part using the roof element. So the roof element is going to be our operator. I'm going to add it as an operator. Notice that as we add this to these operations, we have the numbers. The targets are 3 walls, the operator is just 1 roof. And then the operation is going to change to subtraction with upward extrusion because we want to remove the top part of our wall. Then if you hit execute, this will be cleaned like so. That's basically how you do it, And then if you want to adjust the overhang of this roof, you can maybe do it on either 3D or floor plan. So you can just pick one of the points of your roof like that. Then on the pet palette, this is a pop-out palette that brings you instant commands to modify element. It's across all the elements or tools in ArchiCAD. So I'm gonna click on the offset all edges. One thing that I want you to notice with the pop-out palette or the pet palette is the different or variance of tools that or commands that it displays depending on where you've picked the element. For example, the element is divided into 2 points. You have points and then the line, points and a curve. So if I click on the curve, these are different tools to modify the curve. But on the point, you'll also get slightly different tools to modify the points of your elements. So in this case, I want to offset all edges to add overhang of 3 meters. Hit enter. That's what I have for the roof, like so. So for the hip roof, let's go back to the ground floor and let's activate the roof again and introduce the multiple plane. Which one should I roof? Or I can just do it here. Let's use the polygonal or complex one, where I choose multiple points. I can just place it like that, maybe somewhere there, place it like that. So this is basically what you have. And let's go to 3D to see it well. Select it. You can also change the pitch to 19, and I can close off the solid element operation for now. Okay, the pitch and where it's been linked also very critical. All right, so the other thing here, if you scroll in your info box, you would get the overhang offset. So in this time I'm gonna use 600, and the roof edge angle, maybe let's use vertical. Yes, this is what we want. And then let's see if there is other elements. Okay, but they're not. So what I want you also notice, every tool has an expanded settings of all these parameters. So it will be different, the icon here of the settings depending on the active tool. So if you have to activate the wall, so for example the door, it will give you an icon of a door. So if you click on this settings dialog, it will give you an expanded version of these parameters. So this is basically everything that you need to do for your slab, I mean for your elements, like that. So you have the multi-geometry, where you change the pitch, the elevation, the overhang, you know, the resolution of your roof as well. And then the model also, you can modify the surfaces to your likings and hit OK, stuff like that. Okay. With columns and beams tools, so beam is more like a wall. It has similar parameters such as your wall. You will have your geometry method there, how to place it. I'm not gonna go through this because we went through for other tools and the process is more or less the same. You could see we have the point to point, multiple points, rectangle. If you click on this arrow and hold, you'd see you have either diagonal rectangle, and then we have rotated rectangle. We have the circle or the arc of your beam. Then you have the structure as well. With this tool, we can have either a rectangle beam or circular beam, and then either complex profile. This is where basically you bring in your steel elements, your steel profiles. Okay, let's start with the rectangle tool. Change the material to concrete structural, like so. And then we can place using a rectangle. Let's just place a beam here, maybe above, yes, on this. Let's place a beam on the top of this wall, We check on 3D. We've placed a beam there. Of course, it has to match the thickness of the wall. It depends on the design. It can be like this, maybe protruding beams. And if we select one of this, we can either also change the profile to a circular beam. I don't know, the ideal situation for a circular beam, but it's there. You have the feature. And then if you change this to a profile, a complex profile, right, and you can access, the steel profiles, or the steel section kind of your beams like this. Okay, so there's really nothing much in terms of the beams. Like I said, it works as just as wall tool. So most of the parameters here, this is the cross-section size of your beam. You can rotate it on the x-axis. So for example, maybe you want them to be at 45 degrees. It will be rotated that way. And the reference axis, which is this blue line, it can be either at the top. Let's change this back to 0. It can either at the top or at the bottom or on the sides, like that. So it's very, very important to understand this. And you can also, have an offset of your axis. Maybe let's make it 500. I just wanted to see. Yes, you can offset it from the reference line off by 500 or by any value. You can decide also to curve your beam. Maybe let's change this to 500. So for different situations, you'll have your beam, your arc like that. Okay, and then also the beam start slant. Also, you can decide to be at any angle you prefer. So if I to Control-Shift-D and move this away from there, maybe move it to, let's move it to here so that you can see the changes. Yes, so maybe the start, maybe we want to make it flat like that, and do the same, and do the same to the end, so that it can be, you can rest or placed on top of a platform, and to has its support at the bottom like that. Okay, and then you can override also the surfaces. Every tool has this section of, like I said, expanded version of all the parameters, and you can come here and override the surfaces. Maybe you want to paint it yellow, I don't know, for whatever reason. That's where you can go. Right, now let's understand the architectural logic by combining different elements now into one. Let's start by the wall. I'm going to change this to a rectangle, draw a wall here of 6,000 by 5.8 for whatever reason. There we go. Then I'm going to partition this by changing the geometry method and use the single or straight placement. Let's draw this there, and then select this wall. Maybe have 3.6, move it by 3.6 like that. Then I'm gonna have another wall on the center like that, and then I'm going to trim off this. I want this to be more like a balcony or a veranda for this house. So I'm going to go here and click on the trim this, then go back again and trim that. Right, so let's place a slab to this structure. I'm going to activate the slab, change the structure to basic, and then material to concrete, and the geometry method to place this is going to be polygonal, or this one, a point to point. Then I'm gonna specify multiple points. Remember, like that. Remember, we have what I wanted to say is we have a core material, a core structure, and and then the finish. Now you have to be certain which or where you want your slab to be anchored. In this case, I want it to be anchored on the core structure. So I'm going to pick the parameter, the point, and then in the part palette, let's offset all edges to the core brick, which is here. So everything will be now positioned right on the inside. The plaster is just a finish, not the material to depend on in terms of anchoring your structural elements. Okay, so from here, we also need to have a slab for our veranda. I'm going to activate, if to pick the same parameter of this slab, I'm going to go here and pick parameter, or Alt-C in your keyboard as a shortcut key. Let's click on the slab. So it's activated the slab, and you could see it has the parameters of this slab that we've placed. So we just need to use a rectangle and make sure you pick the right point of your wall, like that. So we have two slabs. So I'm going to MyQ or select this and isolate it on 3D by using a MyQ tool. This is MyQ tool. So if you click on it, and then you can use this heavy MyQ. I can draw a box around or to enclose my elements. Then from here, I'll right click and show MyQ in 3D, or F5 for a shortcut key. So if you don't see your elements within your screen, you can come here and fit in window so that your elements can come. Let's hit O and orbit. What I want here is to differentiate these two slabs. Because this one is an outside slab, it's going to be maybe a step of a drop down of -50. Okay, so yeah, there will be a step of -50, and I'm going to make it 250 because to accommodate for that -450, so that it can be in the same level with the other slab, like that. Okay, so let's place a column by the corner here, and then we'll have beams around. We have a ring beam around this structure. I'm gonna go to the ground and activate the column. The column, I'm going to change the shape to be a circular column, then change the material to concrete. Let's go for concrete structural. The dimension or the size of this will be, I think 300 is fine, and the reference axis should be on the middle, right? Then click there to place. I don't think it should be on the middle. It should be anyway, it's fine in the middle. I can just manually drag it and position it right on the corner, like that. But if you want to reference it nicely, so I think it has to be at the corner here, so that this point becomes your reference point of your elements. Sorry about that. Perfect. So now we have on 3D, you'll see we have all the elements coming together like that. But because it's a drop off, we have a drop down of our slab with by -50. So this has to do the same as well. The drop off -50, so that it can rest above our slab. Okay, so we need now to place the beam. I'm going to activate the beam tool, change the structure to basic, concrete structural. The size of the beam should be, I think I'll leave it at 3 by 4. 3 by 4. And the geometry method to place this is going to be multiple points. And one thing that I'm forgetting is the reference. I want to reference it with the outside, the inside of my slab, of my walls, so that I can go like that, and the inside, then here it will go all the way. Okay, like that, and then place it. Continue, because it's above, so it will be placed on top like that. So let's select all the beams and drop it down. Should we drop down? No. Yes, it has to be at the beam level. So the beam level, this should be on the ground. Then at a height of 2.5, this should be the beam level, right? Okay. Right. So you could see now the interaction of the elements. Our beam automatically cuts through our wall because of that hierarchy of interaction, which is controlled by building materials priority intersection. So our priority stem. So the beam is much stronger than our slab, hence it cuts through our walls. Sorry. Okay. So if I to select these two materials or these two elements and then go back to building materials, you would see our concrete structure is much stronger than our brick. So it's around 740. This is 720. So that therefore this will cut through any wall that will come across. All right. So now let's move on to the openings. Openings, very important. I will activate the doors. We'll have tons of parameters of doors here, but this one I would like us to exploit from an expanded view perspective. And we have libraries that comes with a template of different styles of your doors. We have the garage doors, hinge doors, rotating, sliding to the storefront. So I'm gonna just choose this hinged door, basic door, or maybe let's find something interesting for the entrance. Maybe this one with no, not double door. Let's just find a single door. Yes. Then you can modify or adjust the door leaf pattern to your whatever situation. I'll pick this style 9. The door handle also, let's go for something like that. Opening type should be a side hang. You can have it a double acting. Double acting, that means if you come here on the preview, double acting at the top, you'd see it opens on both sides, but you want them to be just side hang. Okay, let's go back to the 3D preview. So you move on to the second page of the parameters. You can access all the parameters by clicking on this arrow here. You would see all the parameters that you can modify your openings, either windows and doors. They do have the same features. So this is where you can model attribute. This is where you can change your materials. You can have them uniform, and you change it once, maybe change it to a different material. This is for the frame, and then for the glass as well, and you get an instant feedback from your preview there. Then you can hit OK. I'm gonna place it right on the entrance. You could see when I hover my cursor above the wall, it's censoring this. One thing that you need to notice in ArchiCAD, windows or openings depends on walls to be placed. You can't have a window placed on an island or isolated, so it has to be placed within your wall. Hence, it doesn't have a layer. So this is the only element that doesn't have a layer: door and windows. Okay, so from here I will choose the side of the opening. So I'm gonna choose on the inside and click, then choose the side of also the opening stacking like that. So if you check on 3D, we have our door placed nicely. And then also very important about the settings, you have the size, which is the height, and then the width. Then we have the offset, the seal height. So in this case, we want it to be at 0. It has to be 0, sitting right on the floor finish. Yeah, so that this slab or this step can be modified. Right, so there are a bunch of parameters that you can explore, such as placing a door marker on your floor plan. For example, you can just clicking and then change the stamp to something like this, and you can decide to change the ID of the door. Maybe having just door 2 like that, and then you also modify the sizes or the geometry of this label accordingly if you want. But this is just basic, and I want you to introduce to this so that you can understand how this is being applied. Okay, so let's move on to the windows. If you activate the window tool, it's exactly the same thing as your doors. So if you go here under the settings, you would see we have a bunch of libraries that comes with this template that decide what type of door you want to, or what type of windows you want to place. In this case, I'll go with this. Let's go for something. So I'm gonna go with this one, and also this one also is very important. With the latest version, which is ArchiCAD 28, there's a bit of a challenge. I don't know. I'd have to find out how I make the lines to show on 3D, because I could see the main search it's openable, but here it doesn't show. This is something that we need to identify. Maybe we can do it together here. Let me go all through the parameters. This is for the window frame, and you can decide to have a uniform frame if you want, so that everything can be like that. But let's just have it by default. You can also change the sash type, you know. You can place the handle. This is the opening type. It doesn't show here. I don't know why. I have to find out why. This is the closure details and so forth. And the casing, you can case it outside, you can case it inside. This is also applicable to your doors as well. You can choose the type of seal that you want. We have a bunch of different types of seals that comes with in order for you to see the seal, maybe board, something like that. And you can put a sunshine, you know, maybe like I'm gonna go with this one, folding. Oh, this one they don't show, something like that. Okay, so we have different types of parameters that comes with our windows. This is where you change the material under model attributes. Yes, and so forth. Hit OK, and let's place the window here. Check on 3D. We have window placed. Okay, so the window, its offset height depends on the how you here it's currently it's the seal height, but we want to key it in at the door height or window level. So I'm gonna change this seal to story 0, change it to header to wall top, right? And then set this to be 2.1, which is the sorry, wall base. It's supposed to be wall base, and then change it to 2.1. So that's how I, adjust my window settings in terms of the levels. Right, so let's place the roof for this quickly. I'm gonna use the roof tool. This is going to be a hip roof. Let's choose that. I'm gonna use the beams to place. I'm gonna quickly do this. I don't know why I've went all the way like that. Change the pitch to be 19, and I will change the structure to basic and go to its settings, change the roof surfaces to roof French, roof tiles like that. And maybe because this will represent more like a fisher board, I'll change it to stucco white. Yes, something like that. I'll have something like that. Perfect. We came to the end of our video. Thank you so much if you made it to this far. I would like you to support the channel by subscribing and clicking on that notification bell to be notified for the next session of this training program. If you find this video interesting, let me know in the comment section, and also click like and share this video to those who think will benefit from it, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to check our online platforms. We have a digital online store for our libraries, ebooks, project samples, project details, and different library packs that you can use it to optimize your workflow. Check it out. I'll put the link on the description, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.